Alright, welcome to Week 1 review for CS159. I'm going to go over a few topics that you should be familiar with by now, but it can't hurt to double check. Alright? So, first of all, let's take a look at the different parts of a Java program. So this is just our simple hello world example. At the top, we have a Java doc comment. Alright, this is a special multi-line comment. You can see the /* and the */. And this comment goes before things like classes and methods to describe what they do and how to use them. All right, these Java docs are similar to the doc strings that you may have written in Python, but they're a different thing overall. Right? These are Java docs. Doc strings are for Python. So, going through the file, one thing to note is that we have this public class hello world welcome. All right? Every file in Java must contain a class, and all your methods go inside that class. All right? So underneath that, we have another Java doc and then a main method. Right? This main method is the entry point of a program, and it tells Java what code you actually want to run. Now, this has got to follow the format that we see here: public static void main string args. Right? It's got to follow that exactly as is. And then inside, we have some code. You can tell what's inside this main method because of the curly braces. Right? We have 3 different statements that tell Java what to do. All right, so here's a few things to remember, especially if you've had a lot of experience coding in Python. So first of all, Java files end in the .java file extension. And in Java, the name of your file actually matters. It's got to match the name of the class. So remember how every file's got to have a class in it? That name must match the file. So there's also a few small but pretty important differences. For one, normal statements of code must end with a semicolon, right? Code that's inside a method, class, an if statement, or some kind of loop is got to be surrounded by curly braces, right? Java uses curly braces instead of indentation to denote what's inside of a code block. Strings got to use double quotes, and then comments are denoted with 2 slashes for a single line comment, or you can write a multi-line comment by using /* to start the comment and then */ to end it. All right, now the biggest difference between Java and Python is that in Java, type is important. In fact, variables have a specific type, parameters have a type, and return values have a type too, right? Type. Here are some of the common types that you'll see throughout the course, right? We've used these already. We've got ints, we've got doubles, booleans, chars, and of course, strings. Let's talk about variables now. So just as a reminder, to declare or create a variable, you can do one of 2 things. You can declare it without a value, or you can declare it with an initial value. So you've got to be careful if you do it the first way, and you can't actually use the variable until you give it a value later in your code. So I recommend doing it the second way, which makes sure to initialize the variable in addition to declaring it. So here's some examples of doing that. Right? You can see how we have the type come before the identifier, aka the name of the variable, in all these examples, right? Some of them are just declared, some of them are declared and initialized. So for naming our variables, right, these are called identifiers. We have a few different rules. You can use letters, numbers, underscores, and even the $sign, but you can't start an identifier with a number. That's the only exception. All right, if you wanted to print something out to the console, you can do it in a few different ways. First, you can call system.out.print, or you can call system.out.println. All right, what's the difference between these? So let's take a look at these 2 lines of code. These call print for hello, and then print for 2. All right, and if we run that, we would see that the output is hello2, all on one line. Now, on the other hand, if we used println, we would get the output hello and then 2, right, on separate lines. So when we call println, it moves the output to a new line after it's printed out the thing that you gave it. So remember, The ln stands for line. Println outputs a new line character after it prints. All right, let's review a little bit about how you define a static method, right? And remember, a static method is just like a function in Python. So we define them like this. We start with public static, and then we put a return type, then the name of the method, any parameters, which include their types, right? That's important not to forget. You've got to include the types of your parameters. And then inside the curly brackets, we put all the code for that method. So after you've created your method, how do you call it? By using its name. So let's say we had a main method, which is in the same class. Inside here, we can use the name of that method that we wrote, multiply, and then add parentheses to call it. If you have any values that you want to input to that method, those go inside the parentheses. All right, these are called arguments. I have a lot of students who get parameters and arguments confused, so here's my little tip. Think about if you're calling someone on the phone, you may call to argue with them. All right, you're going to call someone to argue. So arguments are the values that you use when you call a method. All right, argue, call. Parameters are used when they are defined, right, up at the top. So let's say you have a method that doesn't return a value. In that case, you've got to use the void keyword. So for example, here, if I had a bark method that only prints, doesn't return anything, I've got to put void instead of the return type, right? And this tells Java that this method isn't going to return anything. In fact, if you tried to return something, that would result in an error. All right, and then finally, say I had a different class called program. All right, if I wanted to call the bark method, right, that's a static method in the dogs class, I would need to put the name of the class before the method I wanted to call. See, right here. So in order to call bark, I've got to say dogs, and then a dot, and then bark. So that's it for this short review. I hope it was helpful, and let your instructors know if you have any questions at all.